Oh, I'm on. Right. Hello, folks. How's it going? Hopefully you're all doing well. I have a busy day today. Doing lots of things, family and stuff, before I go to town and do some more work and I teach some more classes. So, we're in the school year again in terms of university and kids panicking about not getting in this late in the day. Gotta do what you gotta do. So, I'm gonna do these pretty early in the morning, so forgive the bags under one's eyes. I have just got up. I have my lovely cup of tea here, and I'm ready to go. I'm ready to do some hobby nightmares. If you like what I do, head over to Minimaker. It's in the description down below. They do amazing models and sculpts, a few of whom I'm depending on to do a new small Space Marine chapter for Christmas, for the Christmas period, called the Iron Wardens, which will be really cool to go through. Now the Exiled Blades are pretty much done, done. I will be doing a big reveal for them towards Christmas too, and there will be a big Christmas present coming your way from me for free this Christmas. It will be available over on Patreon, but it won't be behind a paywall or anything. It'll be available to download there, ready to go around about Christmas. So that should be a nice Christmas present for you to play with all of your friends. So it'll be there. If those of you who are in the know will know what I'm talking about. It's Warhammer 40,000 related. But anyway, let's jump into our first hobby nightmare of the day. It is from Iron Biscuit. How's it going, my dude? He says, "Hi North, I'm Biscuit again. It's been a while, but I recently remembered the funny moment that got me into the hobby, and I figured I'd share it." Well, thank you very much, man. It's not quite a hobby nightmare, but hoping you and the channel like it. Everybody says that, and then it's actually a hobby nightmare, so, you know. For background, I was raised in a deeply Christian and religious family, my father being a former preacher. To him, the infamous satanic panic never ended. So, he was deeply mistrustful of tabletop games, and unfortunately, he'd get my mum riled up and paranoid about it, and she'd just go along with it. They freaked out as I was a young kid getting into anime, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh cards, and the like, and always gave me hell about it. People forget the struggles of older kids, right? Now, I say kids because they're still into Warhammer. So, well, people forget the struggles of dudes who grew up in the 70s and 80s and what they had to put up with in terms of being nerds. And a lot of those dudes are the curmudgeonly dudes who look around and say, "You don't know how good you've got it," to nerds these days. You know, they'll say, "What's wrong with you? Why are you complaining? Why are you like this?" Because this is not the stuff I had to put up with. You know, they had to put up with being thrown in dumpsters and having their own family hate on them for just liking a thing that had nothing to do with satanic panic or anything like that. Had nothing to do with it, right? But they were absolutely despised for what they were into. And these dudes still went for it. These dudes still liked what they liked. Amazing dudes. Anyway, it becomes deeply ironic that I'd end up getting into Warhammer 40,000 because of my dad. Sometime back in the late 2000s, I was in high school and we went to the GameStop at our local mall. I asked Dad if we could get a game. He snorted and humoured me. At the time, I was really into the Prince of Persia games, ironically because he had previously bought for me Sands of Time a while ago. I was eager to get Prince of Persia Rival Sword for the PlayStation Portable, the PSP console. Oh, you're a bit older than that then, because PSP is so you're a bit younger than that, because PSP is not that old. So yeah, I'd say you were like nearly the same age as me. You're in like your mid to late 30s. Is that right? Maybe your parents were just a bit older. I eagerly grabbed the game. Dad took one look at it and retorted, "Oh, this is one of those games with weird enemies, right?" To this day, I still laugh because I have no idea what he meant by that. I'm assuming he meant fantasy element. I think he means like demons and stuff. But what fundamentalist Christians don't really understand about 40k is, yes, you can play as the demons, but the actual lore is they're the bad guys. And you're, defeating them and fighting them, right? As angelic beings. You are literally, the Emperor's angels, right? But I've heard hatred of 40k justified in many different ways. one of the ways that people like to do it is that they say, well, you shouldn't be worshipping anybody but God, and this emperor is not God. You know, that kind of thing. I know. It just is what it is. And this is me hating on any religion, by the way. Every religion does this. Every one of them does this at some stage. You know, you'll have your more hardline elements who don't like things like 40k, and that's up to them. As I've grown older, I've honestly got a real respect for religion and those who have the discipline to stick to it and say, this is what I am, you know. And some of the happiest dudes I know are serious Christians and Jews. Like, serious. Like, they're like, you know, they adhere to everything. They have immense discipline in their lives. They find immense happiness in their families and children and working to provide for them. And whenever they are in a hobby situation, because that's where I know most of them from, they're always some of the most popular guys in the room because they're always open, honest, helpful, right? There's one of them. There's one of them who he replaces every single swear with like fudge and flip because he's got daughters and he doesn't want to pass that along to them. And he knows he will. He knows he'll just snap every now and again if he's got a bad roll or something in his basement. So like these are the people I know who are like religious. So I'm not anti-religion in any way, shape, or form. You know, I converted when I was in the US. Sorry. To Judaism because I was going to get married over there. And, you know, but I don't describe myself as a practicing Jew or anything like that. That's not what I am. I just have the paperwork. That's it, right? So I wouldn't describe myself as particularly religious. But then again, in the conversion process, my rabbi at the time spoke to me about it, about my misgivings about becoming a Jew, basically. And she said, you know, you don't have to be, like, totally religious to be Jewish. You know that, don't you? You don't. That's not a thing. I was like, what? But it's a religion. She goes, yeah, it's so old, it's kind of like a lifestyle now. Like, that's what it is. It's just a way of living. It's a way of living your life, and if you want to be one of us or not. Now, if you adhere to our tenets of being a good person and helping your fellow man and sticking up for your family and making sure your people are all right, you can be in. And I was like, well, that sounds like all right. You know, the more I read about it, the more I was into it. I was like, yeah, this is cool. As a historian, I will say, like Judaism has a grip on you because it's like, it's the oldest, right? It's the old, at least of the Abrahamic religions. It's extremely old. And it's so old that it's kind of outgrown the insecurities of the younger religions, right? You know which ones I mean, right? It's outgrown that. Oh, get them all. Well, it's outgrown that. It's too old. You know, they've gone through too much. They just go, you know, more hatred. Okay, you know. So, again, as I say, I may take the piss every now and again. I may have a laugh about religion and stuff, but like I'm not against it. Very far from it. I think it's a valuable thing if you get the right things from it, which is discipline, internal happiness, and a foundational confidence in being a man and looking after your family. That's incredibly valuable. So wherever you get that from, it's got my seal of approval. Anyway, he then snatched the game right out of my hand, took a quick look at the shelf, and then handed me another game. Here, get this instead. And he walked off to the checkout. I very confusedly looked at the box in my hands as I read the title and the box blurb. Warhammer 4000? I was very confused, but I took it anyway since my dad was buying it, so why not? Included the box art promo for the game that is attached, as I sadly sold off my copy ages ago during university, as I needed extra cash. Oh, that sucks, man. That sucks. Let's see what it was. Dude, I don't remember this game. Does anybody else remember this game? Let me whack it up on screen. I don't remember this one. This come from Squad Commando. Oh, it's a DS game. Got you. Or PSP. Right. Got you. And that's why I never heard of it. Okie dokie. Pretty cool, though. Anyway. But oh boy, what a ride was I in for playing that game. I am assuming my dad thought it was just some generic sci-fi game like Star Wars and didn't think much of it. I really had never heard of 40k before, but was absolutely blown away by the grimdark setting, how bombastic and over the top the game is. In one point in the game, you unlock the Grey Knight as a playable character, and their cutscene, linked below whenever you want to watch it, has always stuck with me years later and has given me a soft spot for them. I definitely want to get their army someday. Alright, let me just... Oh, it's on YouTube. Right, I'll link it in the description. I'll link it in the description. Cool stuff. Okay. I remember after beating the game looking into more into 40k, as I wasn't really following the story in the game and was just really intrigued. I remember reading Lexicanum articles about the deeper lore, and I'd eventually play the first Dawn of War game. Now, I never played the others. Well, you didn't need to. The other two were not as good. And read a few of the novels later in high school. I never really got into the hobby in earnest until 2015, when I purchased the Space Hulk board game, becoming a huge Blood Angels fan. My dad, years later, would comment over my obsession with toy soldiers, quote-unquote, and I told him he was responsible for introducing me to them all those years ago. He was dumbfounded and had no response. Thanks for reading my story. I'm Biscuit. Okay. Please don't take this the wrong way. Okay. Your dad sounds like a dick. One of those old, dismissive dicks. The reason why this hits home with me is because I had people around me when I was a kid who were really dismissive of my hobbies and what I liked. The only one, which is why we were so close, the only one who gave me the time of day was my grandpa, like my granddad, okay? Like, my grandma would understand and nod and just give me some money to go and buy these things. Grandmas, right? Look, soldiers aren't for her, right? She's a woman. She goes, right, here, that's lovely, dear. Here's some money. How much is it? There you go, right? And I'd go and sort myself out. Whereas Granddad actually sat there and was like, so tell me about the Emperor. Tell me about who's this guy? And he'd pick up models. I'd say, who's this guy? And I'd be like, oh, it's Caldor Drago. Or I'd say, oh, it's Marnius Calgar or Eldrad Ulthran or whatever. And I'd explain who these characters were and what they did. And he'd sit there, and I would always look up, like, is he getting bored? Like, am I... Like, I wanted to see if he was, like, looking at his... not his phone, because he didn't have one, but like he was like, looking off into space somewhere else or doing something else. And he never was. He was always like this. You know? And he'd ask, like, follow-up questions, too. So he'd be like, so this Eldrad guy, is he actually dead, or is he alive? And I'm like, well, we don't know, because, you know, he was in a Blackstone Fortress, and this all happened, and blah, blah, blah. And that's why we were so close. So, but he was the only one, like, in my life. Like, my mum was not interested. She was a single mum, raising 2 kids. She was not interested in any of my hobbies. In fact, thought they were dumb most of the time. You know, my grandma, again, old woman, what do you want us to do, you know? So, yeah, it was, you know, and obviously stepdad, not interested. All those, you know, every other man I had in my life was not interested at all. Thought it was stupid. And, you know, but I never got this, like what you're getting. I never got actual disdain for liking what I liked. That's a really crappy thing to do to a kid. And especially now when you're an adult and you're earning money, you're doing all right for yourself, and you've chosen to still be in this hobby because it gives you joy, and you get judged for that. Nah, because even my mum, who didn't get Warhammer at all, thought it was stupid, even her nowadays, because of how acceptable it's become, she's like, oh, cool, yeah, you like Warhammer, that's fine, you know, because nearly every man my age she knows, as in my sister's husband, you know, sorry, my brother-in-law, and everyone like that, they're all into Warhammer. Like, every single one of my sister's friends that are friends with my mum, their boyfriends and husbands are into Warhammer. Like, every one of them, right? So, it's just more accepted now. And she's gone along with that. For your dad to still not do that, to still look at you with, like, kind of disdain for being into the hobby, it's kind of a dick. Sorry, but that's just me from the outside. You can tell him I said that as well if you want to. I don't care. Anyway. Alright. Blitz is next. How's it going, dude? Let me just remove that from the screen. Boom. There we go. Blitz is next. He says, "Hello, Mr. North. You can call me Blitz. I've been listening to your channel for a good 8 months now, if I recall correctly." Well, thank you. "I've had plenty of bad experiences in my hobbies, particularly in Yu-Gi-Oh!" Oh, okay. "One of the worst experiences I've had, I'll share with you today. I have a few other smaller ones if you'd be interested in reading them, including a couple rage stories from Yu-Gi-Oh! And a man who loved Kroot a little too much." Yes, send those in. Send those in. Especially that second one. If you choose not to read this email, no, I am, so no problem. "Now, although I have lived in the United States all my life, I struggle with Warhammer, sentence structure, and spelling. So, if there are any issues in that regard, I'm extremely sorry. Believe me, I did my best." Dude, this is all nicely written so far, so no. It tends to be later on when somebody's really in their flow, where they miss things, but anyway, moving on. "I've been into 40k for over a year now, having amassed an army of World Eaters, Death Corps of Krieg, Tyranids, which I share with my girlfriend, of course, and I'm saving up to collect Necron's army to try out. Some of my Death Corps of Krieg models are included in this email for your viewing pleasure." Okay. Alrighty, let's have a little look at these. Do love some Death Corps of Krieg. Or like many people, like I really wish the memes weren't there, but like it is what it is. It is what it is. I don't think in 40k we'll ever get away from the memeage. Do you know what I mean? Okay, so with this model, you've done what I always do, or what I used to do with oils. You've applied them and let them dry, and they've got a really glossy finish, which is fine for some models. But for this, I'm going to be honest, that horse's skin, I would just repaint, right? Because you can repaint that and then put the oil into the recesses where it belongs. Wouldn't take 5 minutes. Just 5 minutes. It's a simple mistake. I know you've made that as well. Simple mistake. What you do is you paint it over with the same colour that you painted the original horse with, right? You put the shade into the recesses, okay? And then, if you want to, you can dry brush certain parts of the horse to make it a bit lighter, you know? So I would go with like a darker skin colour, all of that, it looks like Igrax Earth shade, all of that into the recesses of it, and then dry brush it to bring out the lighter elements of it. But anyway, I've got no more space on there, so I will leave those up, and we'll carry on. Really cool models there, man. Cool models. Let me just take a quick sip of my tea, and I'll be right back with you. 1 second. Love my tea. Right, let's carry on. Hobby Nightmares time. So, where was I? Oh, there we go. Now that I've done the obligatory mini-sharing, let me get into the story. Alright, about 2 years ago, there was a 3 versus 3 tournament in my state's capital for Yu-Gi-Oh!, which I was participating in with some of the regular Yu-Gi-Oh! Players at my local game store. I was effectively an emergency conscript for a brother team, for which I had a week to prepare. Now, I am not a very good Yu-Gi-Oh! Player. I have enough skill to get an even win-loss ratio at a regional-sized tournament, but in general, I'm on the lower end of average. Before this regional, I had not played for a couple of weeks, and this was known by our player community. My practice partner was a man we will call Dave. The deck I was playing is a very complicated deck, with many breaching pathways in your plays, and able to adapt that playstyle according to your opponent's plays with fairly reliable results. Now, this is combined with not playing for almost a month, of course, and it led me to mistaking my misplays. Okay. Incorrectly resolving cards, and getting many important effects on my cards, which Dave would repeatedly remind me of. Dave was playing a far more obscure deck, which mine never really struggled against. After one particularly rough match for Dave, where the stars had aligned and I repeatedly drew great cards for this matchup, after I had won, I offered him a good game, as one does. Though Dave did not share my sportsmanship, he snapped at me and just barely below a yell told me, "It wasn't a good game, I had to keep reminding you of what cards you did and what they had, and etc." Obviously, this was a completely fair thing to say and to be annoyed about, but everybody, including him, knew I hadn't played for a long time. So, this sort of thing should have been expected. Now, this next part I'm not proud of, and some background context is indeed needed. Around that time, the friends I've had throughout high school had some sort of drama amongst them and another girl in our friend group which had torn it apart. I decided to side with the girl, and although I can't remember exactly what the issue was, I do recall feeling it was ridiculous to hate her over it. Shortly thereafter, that same girl, after having used me as a friend when she had lost most of her other friends, ditched me the moment she found another group. Yeah. I was left with no friends, poor self-esteem, and was extremely emotionally sensitive at that time. Do you know what's even worse about this, dude? Is that your original friend group, or even people looking in, will think that you're some sort of simp and you deserve what you got. You know what I mean? Now, I don't know any of the ins and outs of that scenario, but if she indeed was being hated for something that she shouldn't have been, then yeah, you had all of your right to say, well, no. It's the bravest thing I think a person can do, came up in Harry Potter this, I think, with Neville Longbottom, but the bravest thing a person can do is to stand up to their friends. If you're seeing something that isn't right, and you're like, no, I'm not happy with this. This isn't what I want. You know, this is not good. The bravest thing you can do is stand up to your friends and say, listen, that's not on. And if that's what you think is fine, then we need to go our separate ways. With political things going on in the world right now, I've had to do that to several friends recently. So, because they have opinions that are abhorrent to me. And they've outed themselves as being abhorrent. I use the phrase, the trash is taking itself out on several occasions. Not to them, because I'm not cruel, but in my own head, right? And these are people I've known for a long time, but I don't want people like that in my life. And I've just, no, off you go. Off you go. You don't need celebrating somebody's demise, as in life, as in like they've lost their lives. You don't need more than one chance. Do you know what I mean? When people say, well, you're not going to give them any more chances, one chance and you're out. Yeah, because there are certain things that you celebrate that tell me you're not a good person to be around me and my family and the people I like. So, out you go. It's not complicated. Do you know what I mean? And I think the bravest thing you can do, and I think you did it more braver than what I did, because all I did was unfriend them or send them a message saying, I disapprove, off you go, don't want to be friends with you anymore, then unfriend them. Then never block them, always give them right of reply. You never block them. Be a man, let them reply, let them vent it out, and say, okay, no problem, right? But what you did was even braver than that, is that you saw something in real life that was going on, you said, hey, this isn't on, and if this is the kind of people you are, I want to be around you, right? So well done. Well done. Now back to the story. That reaction to genuine mistakes had greatly discouraged me and made me flake from the event completely. I made up an excuse for both leaving the game store after the match and dropping from the 3 versus 3 event. It had gotten to me so bad, I was crying during my 30-minute drive home. Okay, that's a bit much. That's a bit much. I mean, as much as I'm on your side, grown-ass man crying about a card game called Yu-Gi-Oh! Come on, dude. Like, there are dicks out there. Like, don't get me wrong, right? Like, yesterday, I had a similar situation. So I tried to return a shirt to a place called Moss Brothers in Liverpool, right? I'm naming them because screw them, right? Basically, I bought a suit for my grandpa's funeral, and it cost me upwards of £350. And when I looked at the receipt, they put in a shirt in there that I didn't need. I didn't ask for, didn't need, and it cost £50. And I was like, dude, I've got 90 odd white shirts. I'm not 90, you know what I'm saying? I've got like at least 10 white shirts. So I got my receipt, and I came back to the store with it folded up, and I said, yeah, I'm really, first of all, I walked in, and the guy's very tall, who I'm talking to, and he's just Really unpleasant. And he was unpleasant the last time we were there when I was buying the suit. Can you imagine how unpleasant he is now I'm returning a part of it, right? So he looks down his nose at me, sneers, and... Do you know customer service when they're supposed to be, like, serving you as a customer, going, oh, yeah, and they're giving you their undivided attention? I came in, and he looked at me, and he was doing something with a few jumpers or something, putting, like, labels on them. And I said, hello, I bought a suit from here a few weeks ago. Verbatim, that's what I said. I bought a suit from here a few weeks ago for my grandpa's funeral. Went down a treat. Everybody loved it. Such a nice suit. Mother was very impressed, which is the most important thing. So I'm really happy with it. Thing is, there was a shirt in my order, a white shirt, and when I looked in my wardrobe, I've got like 15 of them. So would I be able to return this, please? Because I honestly don't need it. Right? Now that is a reasonable request. I have got my proof of purchase. I've got my shirt, and here we go, right? He goes, mm-hmm. And I carries on doing what he's doing. And I'm standing there with the shirt in my hand, like, he goes, okay, takes it out of my hand, looks at it, looks at the proof of purchase, and he goes, do you have your tag? I'm like, what? Do you have your tag? No, of course not. I tried the suit on. You know what I mean? Like, of course not. Oh, I can't return it then. It's going to have a tag. And I was like, yeah, but my proof of purchase is there. It's got your label on it. Proof of purchase is right there. I brought back the actual thing. Yeah, but that's our policy. You can't do it. And you're just sandbagging me. And I was like, mate, I spent upwards of £300 in this store on this suit. And you're sweating me over handing something back when I've done it fairly. I've got my proof of purchase. And I've got my... You know, the shirt's nicely ironed. It's there. It's fine. You know what I mean? I've even got the packaging. Look, here's the packaging. It's there. I've got the packaging. Look, it's from this. Yeah, it doesn't matter. I'm gonna, you know. And he looked at me like, you know, quite aggressive, like getting like aggressive eyes. And I was like, all right. I said, number one, wind your neck in. Number one, and number two, do you know what? Keep this. Keep the shirt. Right. Keep the proof of purchase. Don't want the money back. It's fine. I am going to be needing more suits in the future. I am never coming back here ever again. And he stood there, like, dumbfounded. And I walked out, right? And I was walking out, and I was really upset. Because he was so, like, dismissive and arrogant and aggressive. And I was just like, how couldn't something like that work in customer service? And I grumbled all the way up the road. And do you know what I did? I went and had a cup of tea. I went to Leaf on Bold Street in Liverpool. I sat down, had a cup of tea, watched the world go by, got my laptop out and did some work. And I was fine. Do you know what I mean? So, I've had similar interactions with people even yesterday, Blitz. Yesterday. If you're crying about it, you probably need to see somebody. Now, I'm not talking therapy. Therapy only really works for very specific people. If somebody tells you to just go to therapy, disregard that advice. It doesn't work for the vast majority. For you, best thing you can do is surround yourself with male role models, male friends, and do more things that you find value in. Gym, you know, going for walks, going out with your pals. Weights. Dude, weights are so good. Like, you stick a 40k novel on, you get some decent weights, and you just do reps. You'll be there for like an hour. Just chilling out, doing a rep, and before you know it, your mind's purged. It's gone. Like, whatever you were worrying about, it's still there, but it's a lot less, you know? It's kind of like having sunburn, and then going in a hot shower. You know, it sort of takes this thing out of it, that kind of a thing. Anyway, this pretty much is where the hobby nightmare ends. Since then, the Yu-Gi-Oh community is starting to die in that area, and expecting no small part to Dave's general attitude with everybody. This man gets angry when the game store doesn't give out prize support for free tournaments, charges people shipping when selling cards in his binder, and his attitude of superiority around people who don't play meta strategies, or when they do, those who choose to play cards that they like the feeling of rather than the popular staple cards. I believe he's in his 50s and still acts this way. I have a few smaller negative stories about this man I could include in an anthology of sorts, if there is any interest in them. Yeah, send them along. Nowadays, I have a group of friends that keep me happy, plus a sweet girlfriend who matches my idiotic energy and makes me happy every second I spend with her. In short, life is much better now on my end, except of course my poor bank account. Collecting 2 horde armies wasn't the most sound financial decision. Hope you enjoyed this, and if it gets included in a video, I hope everyone enjoyed listening. Keep it real, Mr. North, and remember, the Emperor protects. Well, thank you very much, man. Yes, so things are going well for you. Good. Good. I'm very happy about that. You know, if you still feel that you've got that response in you, that you'd start crying if someone had a go at you, you know, just remember how the world is. All right? This is going to happen. Again, you're a man. Somebody's going to step to you sooner rather than later. Somebody's going to, you know, really be a dick to you sooner rather than later. Best thing for you to do is to, you know, go out with your guys. Do you know what I'd do? I'd take up martial art if I was you. I think there's a lot of fear here. I don't know. It's just an intuition I've gotten. You know, there's guys who are afraid of life. Afraid of, like, things going on. Start something. Martial arts. Yeah, something like that. Something constructive. Something that's going to help your physical, mental well-being. There's only a certain amount of worries you can have in your own brain when some larger man is trying to choke you out unconscious. You know what I mean? So, I really do. I think martial arts, boxing, something like that is incredible for your brain. And the very reason why I'm doing pro wrestling training in November is because I want to get that, right? It's not a martial art, but you have to really concentrate on what you're doing. You have to. It's really good for your physical health, things like that. So that's why I'm doing it. So I'm only practicing what I preach. And you sound like the kind of guy who, again, you may think everything's okay right now because, you know, there's no adversity. But what are you going to do when adversity comes knocking? Okay, you're not gonna cry again, I hope, but like you're not gonna be best placed to face it. You know what I'm saying? And if you got a decent job, that's great. I would focus on doing what you're doing, living your best life. But now, remember, Blitz, your life right now, unlike most people who send in a hobby nightmare, your life is on a good keel right now. It's on solid foundations, and you can build on those. You're already a step ahead of most people, several steps ahead of most people who call in with an issue, right? You've got to go from there. You've already got the foundations in place. You've got a girlfriend, you've got a decent job, you've got income, you know, you can afford to do several armies of Warhammer, which means you're doing well, okay? So, if I were you, I would start building on those foundations. Start building the Blitz of tomorrow, right? Take up a martial art, or at the very least, go to the gym. Make a habit of it. Eat well, you know, setting those foundations. Put yourself in scenarios where you face adversity, difficult scenarios. You know, join a sports team. You know, join a 40k group, 40k team, right? Do you know what? 40k would be a really good one for you, actually, because you will face adversity. You will face the odd guy who tests your patience or is just a bit of a dick. I do that, right? Go to the gym and do 40k more. That's what I would do. Join a club, do 40k more. You'll face adversity. You need to inoculate yourself to adversity, because if your response in some time of your life, and it doesn't matter when it was, you've got it in you, right? If your response to something like this is to cry in a car, we need to start doing reps in life. You know what I mean? And that's just my advice. I know you might not feel like anything needs to change, but it's far better to start building for a better tomorrow from a place of strength. You know? So there was a story back in the day of a guy called Mike Phelan, and not many of you will know who this guy is. He applied to be assistant manager of Manchester United back in the day, and Manchester United were winning the Premier League nearly every single year. And Alex Ferguson, who was the coach of Manchester United, he asked Mike when he applied for the job, he said, how do we remain champions of England. How do we remain number one? Right? You know what Mike Phelan said? He said, train, act, and play as if you're number 2. And it got him the job. Right? And they went on to win a lot more trophies, a lot more silverware. So, again, very, very, very important. Train, act, and play as if you're number 2. Because Man United at that stage were starting from a position of strength, and it would be very easy to sit on that and go, yeah, that's fine. We're fine here, you know. We'll trundle along. We don't need to add much to what we're doing. No. Always add. If you're starting from a place of strength, keep strengthening. Keep getting better. Because you recognise, strike while the iron is hot. If your life is going okay, don't be complacent. Do more things. Add to it. Realise you're in a place of strength so you can take more on. Right? Take more responsibility. Take more work on. Go to the gym. Right? Things like that. If you're starting from where you are, Blitz, recognise where you are in life and how cool it is to be there. And build on it. You know? And if things ever go wrong, you can always lower things down again. Right? You can always go back. That's my advice, anyway. I love you all a long time. I will speak to you tomorrow for some more hobby nightmares. Got a few coming in, which are really, really cool. So, love you all. Speak to you soon. Have a good one. Bye now.